You ever notice how kids' laughter sounds different when there's no one around to laugh back? I thought it was just the wind that day, until one of them called my name. Camera clicks on. Static. A deep breath. You ever notice how kids' laughter sounds different when there's no one around to laugh back? That's the first thing I said when I hit record that night. I thought it sounded clever, mysterious enough to pull viewers in. I didn't realize then that I was starting something I wouldn't be able to stop. Anyway, yeah, hi, I'm Evan. Most of you probably know me from my hiking videos. The slow, relaxing ones where I just walk through quiet places and talk about life. No jump scares, no fake ghosts. But this one's different. I wasn't planning to upload this at all, honestly. I've been, sitting on this footage for months. I told myself I deleted it. Guess I lied. He exhales, nervous laughter. It started 3 months ago, right after the storm that tore through Ash Pine Valley. The woods behind my place, you know, that stretch that connects to Old Miller Creek, it got flooded. I figured I'd film the aftermath for a new upload. Branches everywhere, mist rolling off the trees, the kind of eerie beauty people love in the comments. I left early. 6 a.m, no one else around. No cars, no sound, except for birds, wind, and my own boots crunching in the mud. And then, I heard it. He leans closer to the mic. It wasn't far off. Maybe 50 feet into the trees. At first, I thought it was an echo, a high, breathy laugh, soft enough that I almost mistook it for a crow. But then it came again, louder, sharper, layered. It sounded like children. You know how laughter usually lifts your mood? This didn't. There was something off about it, like someone trying too hard to sound happy. And I swear to you, there was no way any kids were out there that morning. The nearest house is miles away. I remember stopping my camera and whispering, "Hello," like an idiot. And that's when I saw them, 3 of them, standing right between the birch trees. 2 boys and a girl, all of them pale, soaked like they'd been swimming. They were wearing clothes that didn't make sense. Little suspenders, dresses, the kind of stuff you'd see in old photos from the 1950s. They weren't playing anymore. They were just looking at me. He swallows hard. I waved, tried to sound calm. "Hey, you guys okay?" They didn't move, not even a blink, just stared. The girl tilted her head like she recognized me. That's what really froze me. That familiarity. I told myself maybe their parents were camping nearby. Maybe they were lost, but deep down, I knew that wasn't true. It was too quiet. No tents, no fire smoke, no sound except their breathing, and mine, so I turned off the camera, or at least, I thought I did. When I looked again, the kids were gone, just trees and mist. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, waiting to hear another laugh, but there was nothing. I convinced myself it was a trick of the fog, packed my gear and went home. He pauses. A faint hum from his computer fills the silence. That should have been the end of it. But that night, when I loaded the footage onto my laptop, something weird happened. You ever get that sinking feeling before you even hit play? Like your gut already knows something's wrong? I skimmed through the first half. Birds, trees, normal stuff. Then, about 9 minutes in, right before the point where I remembered turning off the camera, the laughter came back. Louder, clearer, except this time it wasn't coming from the woods. It was coming from behind the camera. And right before the screen glitched, I heard a small voice, "I swear to God," whisper, "Evan, come play." He chuckles weakly, like trying to dismiss it. I told myself it was fake. Audio feedback. Corrupted data, something logical. I even posted in a video forum asking if anyone knew why old SD cards make phantom sounds, but the replies didn't help. They said laughter like that doesn't just appear in background noise. So yeah, I panicked. deleted the file, or thought I did. Guess my hard drive had other plans. Because a few nights later, when I was editing something else, I heard that same laughter again. Only this time, it wasn't coming from the footage. It was coming from inside my house. Static crackles. The sound of distant, faint giggling filters through the mic. I didn't approach them. Evan mutters softly. I didn't go near them. But his voice trembles as he says it, like someone trying to convince himself of a lie. Camera flickers. He stares off screen for too long. When I checked the footage that night, he whispers, eyes glassy. The kids were gone, but the sound, their laughter, it was inside my house. Cut to black. Camera fades in. Evan looks pale, exhausted. His eyes dart off screen before he starts speaking. You know when you wake up, and for a second, you forget you're scared. That's what it was like the next morning. For about 5 seconds, I believed the night before hadn't happened. No laughter, no voices, just a bad dream. But then I noticed the camera still sitting on my desk, and the timestamp on the file I swore I deleted. 3:17 a.m, a new recording. One I didn't make. He forces a nervous laugh. I told myself maybe I left it on by accident. Maybe the mic picked up the TV, or the rain, or my own breathing. But the weird thing? The clip started with me saying, "Who's there?" I didn't remember saying that. The screen stayed dark for a while, just the faint hum of static, then a giggle, short, high-pitched, like a child trying to hide behind their hands. And then a whisper, "Evan." It said my name like it had always known it. He rubs his face, voice trembling. That's when I shut my laptop. I didn't watch the rest. I couldn't. I spent the whole morning convincing myself it was an audio glitch. Maybe the microphone had picked up some random noise, but deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. At around noon, I went outside, thinking fresh air would clear my head. The woods looked normal again, calm. But as I stepped off my porch, I saw something in the mud. Small footprints, like a child had run across the yard barefoot. 3 sets, each one perfectly formed, wet, leading straight to my door. He pauses, lowering his voice. It hadn't rained since the storm 3 days earlier. I tried to laugh it off. I even recorded a few clips for my next video, pretending everything was fine. But every time I played them back, there it was again, faint giggling, layered beneath my voice, almost like it was waiting to be noticed. That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing things. Soft knocks, something brushing against the walls, whispers that vanished when I turned on the light. At one point, I swear I heard a quiet knock under the floorboards. 3 times. He looks at the floor, expression distant. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? A guy who spends half his time alone in the woods hearing phantom laughter. But the next day, I ran into my neighbor, old Mrs. Hollins. She lives about half a mile down the dirt road, has that faded blue house with the rusted gate. She called out from her porch. "You've been hearing them too, haven't you?" I froze, didn't know what she meant. She shuffled closer, eyes cloudy but sharp, like she could see through me. "Don't go near that creek," she said. "Not since the children started calling again." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Told her I didn't believe in ghost stories, but she didn't laugh back. She just said, "I used to say the same thing. Before my boy disappeared." A long pause. Evan exhales. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to, but her words stuck with me. Before my boy disappeared. When I got home, I checked the footage again. I told myself I'd delete everything, for real this time. But when I opened the file folder, it was empty, except for one clip I didn't recognize. No title, no timestamp, just a black thumbnail. I played it. At first, it was just static, then faint breathing. Mine, I think. followed by the sound of something dragging across the floor. And then, that voice again, closer this time. Evan, another whisper joined it. We're cold. He shuts his eyes, hands trembling. That's when my camera light flicked on by itself. The red record dot glowed. I hadn't touched it. I spun around. No one there. But the knocking came again. This time, right beneath me. Knock, knock, knock. I pressed my ear to the floor. Silence. Then, laughter. It burst out so suddenly I fell back, knocking over my chair. I don't remember much after that, except the sound of my own breathing and the voice. Smaller this time, almost pleading, "Let us in." He grips the table, whispering fast. I didn't let them in. I didn't open the door. I didn't. You have to believe me. He looks into the camera, voice breaking between words. People think ghosts want revenge, but that's not what they want. They just want company, and maybe I gave them that somehow. I don't know how. That night, I moved my mattress into the living room. Couldn't stand sleeping near the floor anymore. I thought about what Mrs. Hollins said, about her son, about the creek. I remember thinking, maybe I should ask her what she meant. He laughs weakly, then freezes. But before I could, I heard the voices again. This time, not from the woods, not from under the floor. Pinned there, with yellowed tape and rusty nails, were children's drawings. He stops talking for a moment, eyes darting as though he's replaying it. They looked old, paper turning brown around the edges. But what got me wasn't what they showed. It was how specific they were. The first drawing, 3 stick-figure children standing by a river. Behind them, a tall shape, not quite human, drawn in black crayon. The second, a man with a camera, stick arms stretched toward the kids. They were outside my window. He glances over his shoulder. Silence stretches. They were whispering my name, all 3 of them, soft and in unison, like they were trying not to wake someone. Evan, come play, and for a split second, I swear I saw 3 tiny shadows move past the glass. The girl in front turned her head and smiled. His voice drops to a whisper. When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. My window was unlocked. Camera flickers. The hum of faint laughter seeps into the audio. I think they called me because they remembered me, he mutters. Because I used to play there too. He stares at the camera for a long time, eyes hollow. I didn't approach them, he repeats softly. But maybe they approached me first. Static rises. The video distorts, catching his whisper as it fades to black. Next time, I'll tell you what happened when I watched the tape. Camera flickers on. Evan looks worse than before. Red eyes, unshaven, sitting in near darkness. The only light comes from the laptop screen reflecting off his face. I told myself I wouldn't open that file again. A shaky breath. But curiosity's a kind of sickness, isn't it? The kind that convinces you knowing is safer than wondering. He looks straight into the camera, expression flat, eyes hollow. I thought if I watched the tape, I'd prove to myself that it wasn't real, that I was just tired, grieving, maybe losing it. But that's not what happened. He drags his fingers through his hair, muttering. It's never what happens. It was around 2 a.m. when he gave in. The house was silent, except for the refrigerator hum and the occasional crack from the wood stove. He plugged in the SD card, opened the folder, and there it was. The video he'd seen before, the one he was sure he'd deleted twice already. It wasn't labelled, just a black thumbnail, timestamp 00000. He smirks nervously. That's the funny thing about digital files. You think you control them, but sometimes They come back, like they want to be seen. He hit play. At first, the footage was normal. The forest, grey light seeping through the trees, his own voice describing the flood damage. Everything exactly as he remembered. Then the image stuttered. The frame jumped forward 5 seconds, then 10. He raises a trembling hand as if replaying it in his mind. And then I saw them again. The 3 children stood at the edge of the trees, still, silent, watching him through the camera's lens. Only this time, their faces looked different, blurry, like someone had smeared them with ash. Their mouths didn't move when the laughter began. He glances off screen, voice softening. I kept waiting for the version of me in the video, to walk away, to stop filming. But I didn't. I moved closer. He insists he doesn't remember that part. He swears he didn't walk toward them that day. Yet the footage shows his boots crunching through the mud, the children's shapes growing clearer as he approaches. I heard myself whisper, "It's okay, I won't hurt you." He shakes his head violently. I never said that. I never said that. The video flickered again. For a split second, maybe less, a 4th figure appeared, taller, standing behind him. He leans forward, whispering fast. I paused it, rewound it, frame by frame. You can see it, right there, the outline of someone standing right behind them. The shape was darker than the trees, too solid to be a shadow, too motionless to be human. When the footage jumped again, the figure was gone. He tried to tell himself it was lighting, maybe a branch, but then he noticed something else. The children weren't looking at the camera anymore. They were looking past it. Evan presses his palms together, breathing fast. I know how crazy this sounds, but it's like they were watching me. The me that's sitting here right now, like they knew I'd come back. He says the audio began to distort. Low, warped laughter beneath the static, looping over and over until the pitch broke. He muted the laptop, but the sound kept going. It wasn't coming from the computer anymore. He taps the desk rhythmically, whispering to himself. It was coming from the hallway. He grabbed his flashlight, left the screen playing and stepped out. The beam flickered across empty walls. No movement. But when he turned back toward the monitor, the children weren't in the video anymore. They were standing behind him. He closes his eyes, voice cracking. I don't mean in real life, not yet. I mean in the footage. They'd turned around. They were facing the camera. My back. He rewound it again, thinking he imagined it. But every time the frame froze, their heads were turned a little more, until their faces filled the screen. That's when the girl's mouth moved for the first time. Her lips formed a single word. Stay. He stares blankly for a few seconds, as if hearing it again. The video cut to black. Then another voice, deeper, slower, whispered through the speakers. You left her. He doesn't know who her is. He refuses to say. But the way his jaw tightens when he hears that word, the way his hands clench, makes it obvious there's something he's not telling us. A faint, broken laugh. I told myself I imagined it, closed the laptop. But when I turned around, I saw something written on the fogged window. He glances off screen. There's a long silence before he says it. Play again. He rubs his temples, muttering incoherently. I should have stopped. I know that now, but I kept hearing them. In my sleep, in the pipes, in the trees outside my window. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those faces frozen mid-laugh. He looks at the camera, expression fragile, desperate. I think they followed me home because I didn't help them. But that's not true, right? I didn't leave anyone behind. His voice cracks. He's crying, half laughing. I tried to tell myself they weren't real, that maybe they were memories or guilt or something else. But then I remembered what Mrs. Holland said about her son, about the creek. He wipes his face roughly. I went back there the next night. I had to know. I had to see if anyone was still out there. He leans toward the camera, voice a trembling whisper. And that's when I found the drawings. Static flickers. A child's faint laughter echoes through the feed as the video fades to black. Next time, I'll show you what was in Mrs. Holland's basement. Camera turns on mid-focus. Shaky hands, too close to the lens. Evan looks exhausted, eyes bloodshot. He forces a smile, the kind that trembles on the edge of panic. Okay, this might be the last video I make about this. He swallows. Not because I don't want to talk about it, but because I don't think they want me to anymore. He looks over his shoulder, like he's expecting to see someone standing there. I told you last time that I went back to the woods, right? I wasn't planning to, but the nightmares kept getting worse. I'd wake up to that same sound, the laughter, and every time it was closer. Sometimes I'd hear whispers too. They'd say her name. He stops abruptly. Forget that. Doesn't matter who she was. The way his tone hardens at her gives it away. There's more he's not saying. Something personal, something buried. So the night after watching the tape, he went to see Mrs. Hollands again. He says the air outside felt wrong, heavy, like the pressure before a storm. Her porch light was flickering when he got there. She opened the door before he even knocked, imitating her trembling voice. You shouldn't have watched it again, Evan. He asked her what she meant. She didn't answer at first, just stared at him like a doctor trying to decide if a patient was too far gone to treat. Then she said, "They remember you now. Once you see them, they don't forget." He laughs bitterly. I told her that was insane, that I didn't see anything, that it was just video noise, maybe reflections. She just shook her head. Reflections don't know your name. That line hit him harder than he admits. He said he almost left right then, but as he turned to go, she added something else. If you really want to understand what happened, check the basement. He thought she was joking, but when he looked back, her face had gone pale, eyes glassy. You'll find them there, she said. You'll find her. Evan's hands twitch on the desk. His voice lowers. I didn't want to go down there, but you know how it is when something's stuck in your head. It's like gravity. You can't stop yourself. The next evening he went back. He claims she wasn't home. The door was unlocked. He stepped inside. The air smelled like damp wood and old candles. The floorboards creaked like the house was breathing. He called out for her, but no one answered. Just that faint humming sound he'd heard before, low and rhythmic, coming from below. He found the basement door half open. He exhales, voice trembling. I told myself I'd just take a peek. Just one quick look, record something, leave. He clicked his flashlight on and started filming. The beam cut through dust, catching cobwebs and shelves lined with jars. At first, everything looked ordinary, until he reached the far wall. The third, the same man holding a child's hand. He lets out a shaky laugh. I thought someone was messing with me. Had to be. Maybe she planted them to scare me. But then he found the last drawing, folded, half buried under dust. It showed the 3 children again, only this time. Their eyes were hollow circles, and behind them, scrawled in red marker, were the words, "She's still down there." He says that's when the knocking started. Faint, rhythmic, from beneath the basement floor. His voice cracks. I froze. My flashlight started flickering and I heard, I swear, the sound of breathing just inches from the ground. It wasn't mine. It was small, wet, like a kid trying not to cry. He backed away, but his foot caught on something metal. A ring latch, a small square hatch built into the floorboards. He didn't want to open it, but the knocking stopped the moment he touched it. And somehow, that silence felt worse. His eyes filled with tears. I told myself I'd just look, just see if maybe an animal got trapped or something. He lifted the hatch. The air that came out was cold, colder than outside, colder than it should have been. His flashlight beam vanished into blackness. Then he heard her voice, soft, whispering from below. "Evan!" He grabs the edge of the desk, whispering fast. It sounded like her. I know her voice anywhere. He insists it wasn't possible, that she was gone, but still. He leaned closer to the opening. The smell hit him first, rot and wet soil. Then a small hand shot up from the darkness, brushing his wrist. He dropped the light. The beam spun wildly, catching glimpses, flashes of tiny faces below, grinning, crying, laughing. He slammed the hatch shut, ran, didn't stop until he was outside. He wipes his mouth, trembling. I didn't tell the cops. What was I supposed to say? That I broke into an old woman's basement because ghosts told me to. When he went back the next day, the house was empty. Door locked, windows dark, no sign of Mrs. Hollins. The police told him she'd been missing for 2 nights already. He looked straight into the lens, eyes wide. She told me to find them. She told me I'd find her. Maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe that's how they get you. They make you look. He laughs quietly, a dry, broken sound. I don't even know if she was ever real. I tried to find records, property deeds, photos, but nothing. Like she never existed. But I saw her house. I was there. He rubs his temple. After that night, I started hearing knocking again. This time, not from the floor, from the walls. He reaches off screen, taps on something hollow. The sound echoes, low and empty. They don't want me to tell this. I think they're angry I found where she kept them. He glances over his shoulder, voice dropping to a whisper. I keep hearing her voice now too. Mrs. Hollins. Sometimes she says it's not over. Sometimes she says... He pauses. Eyes go wide. You left her again. Static erupts. A child's laughter echoes faintly under the noise. Evan flinches, looking toward the doorway. I shouldn't have gone down there, he whispers. They followed me back. I can hear them right now. He reaches to shut off the camera, but before the feed cuts, a faint child's voice whispers through the static. Play with us again, Evan. Screen flickers. His face distorts in the final frame, his mouth moving silently as the laughter grows louder. Next time, his voice cracks through the interference. I'll show you what was on the footage I didn't upload. The screen flickers to life. Evan sits farther back than usual, hunched, pale, eyes red like he hasn't slept in days. The camera focuses, then slips slightly out of focus again, like it doesn't want to look at him. All right, he whispers, rubbing his face. You've all been asking about the footage I said I deleted. The one from that night in the woods. I didn't delete it. Not really. He glances to his left, at something we can't see, then back to the camera. I tried, he says, his voice cracking. God, I tried. Every time I wiped it, it came back. Different name, different folder, same file. It's like it wants to be seen. He leans closer, whispering. But don't watch this part in the dark. Don't. Just don't. He exhales shakily, drags a window onto the screen. The file name reads playwithus.mp4. The clip begins with shaky night vision footage. The forest is washed in ghostly green. You can hear the crunch of Evan's boots on leaves and his breathing. Fast, nervous. I remember filming this, he says softly over the playback. I was following the laughter. I swear I thought it was just kids. Maybe lost, maybe playing. The sound in the clip grows louder, giggling, echoing around the trees like the forest itself is laughing. Then faintly, someone says his name. Ivan. The whisper doesn't come from one place. It folds around the mic from behind, from ahead, from inside the sound. I didn't notice that before, he mutters, pausing the video. That voice. I thought it was the wind. He presses play again. The camera shakes as he turns. There, between the trees, are 3 children. The same ones, still wearing those stiff, old-fashioned clothes. Their faces are blurred by motion, but their mouths, you can tell they're smiling. Evan zooms in. Hey, you okay out here? His voice echoes from the recording. The children stop laughing. All 3 turn toward the camera at once. Come play, Evan, one of them says. The smallest girl. His breathing quickens. The camera drops lower, jittering as though his hands are shaking. Who told you my name? He asks. The girl tilts her head. She did. The camera shifts, catching movement in the dark behind them. Something tall, pale, faceless, standing half in shadow. Then the footage cuts to static. Back in the present, Evan runs his hand through his hair, trembling. That's where it always ended before. But this time, there was more. The file's longer now. He clicks play again. The static clears. The camera is somewhere else, moving slowly down what looks like a basement corridor. The walls are wet, lined with roots and stone. Evan swears under his breath. I never filmed this. I don't even know where that is. In the footage, a woman hums softly. The melody is the same tune Mrs. Hollins used to hum in Chapter 3's audio glitch. The camera pans toward a dim light, a candle sitting on a table. Around it are drawings, the same ones from her basement, but now there's a new one pinned in the center. A man sitting at a desk, talking into a camera. Evan's voice in the present cracks. That's me. They drew me. In the background, the children's laughter returns, louder now, echoing like a loop. The camera trembles, swings toward the corner of the basement, and for a split second, we see Mrs. Hollins, or something that looks like her. Her face is stretched, her mouth too wide, her eyes glassy black. She's holding the camera, whispering into it. They needed someone new. The screen distorts. The footage cuts to black. Evan sits motionless. The room behind him seems darker now. The light from the monitor, the only thing keeping him visible. I told you I didn't record that, he says quietly. But it keeps showing up on every device I have. My phone, my backup drive, even the cloud. He stares off camera again, voice trembling. I think she wants me to show it. Maybe that's how she spreads. For a moment, the audio warps. Faint laughter overlapping with a whisper. Upload it. Evan flinches, clutches his ears. Stop, stop, stop! He hits the desk. The camera tilts, showing a glimpse of movement in the shadows behind him. Something small darts past the doorway. Fast, human-shaped. He notices. They're in the house again. He stands, knocking the chair over. The camera keeps rolling as he walks toward the door, breathing fast. Mrs. Hollins, you can have it. You can take it. I'm done. There's a faint knock, 3 short taps, coming from inside the wall beside him. Then, softly, it's not done, Evan. His head jerks toward the sound. The camera autofocuses, catching a faint outline in the drywall. Small handprints pressing outward from inside. He stumbles back. Jesus Christ. He runs to shut the camera off, but before his hand reaches it, the screen glitches. For an instant, his reflection on the monitor smiles, even though his face doesn't. The reflection moves first, then it waves. He gasps, staring at the screen. No, that's not me. He steps closer. The reflection leans in too, whispering something only the mic picks up. Now you've seen it. The screen cuts to static. 10 seconds of silence. Then faintly, the video starts replaying itself. Not from the beginning, but from the middle. The woods scene looping endlessly, except this time, there's something new. In the distance, behind the children, another figure stands, holding a camera. Zoom in. It's Evan, the real Evan, wearing the same clothes he has on in the current video, staring straight into the lens like he's watching himself from inside the footage. His voice, distorted, overlays the scene. I think that's where I am now. I don't know what's real anymore. He sounds far away, like he's speaking from underwater. If you're watching this, the voice continues, don't try to find the video. Don't download it. It finds you. The image flickers, Evan's face flashing between the forest, the basement, and his darkened room. Each version of him looks a little less alive. She said they need someone new. The video cuts abruptly. For a split second, the YouTube screen flickers. The recommended sidebar shows the same thumbnail repeated 12 times. Evan's face frozen mid-screen. Then the screen goes black. A child's giggle echoes one last time, soft, close to the mic. Tag, you're it. Story number 2. They told me the mall closed in '98. So why do I hear footsteps every night at 2:13? And before you ask, no, I'm not imagining things. I have proof. I just can't show it to you anymore, not after what happened last week. They told me the mall was empty, but the thing about silence is, you start to hear what it's hiding. I wasn't supposed to take this job. Everyone told me to stay away from Hanley Plaza, Detroit's biggest retail corpse. It closed in 1998 after some incident they never fully explained. But bills don't care about rumors. When the demolition company said they'd pay double for night coverage, I said yes before asking questions. The place was enormous. 4 floors of dust, shattered glass, and dead storefronts. You could still see faded sale posters clinging to the windows, frozen in time. Grand opening, 1984. The parking lot looked like a battlefield. Light poles bent sideways, asphalt cracked open by roots. Inside the small site office, I met Mr. Hanley. I thought he was just another contractor. He didn't shake my hand, didn't even look up from the forms. His voice sounded like it came from behind a wall. Marcus Lang, correct? Yeah. Night shift only, right? Night only, he confirmed. 6 nights a week. Your patrol. Keep vagrants out. No photos, no live streams. Understand? That last line threw me. Live streams? He finally looked up. His eyes were grey, like the colour had been scrubbed out. People like to make things viral these days, he said. Let's keep this job quiet. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were my badge, keycard, and a laminated sheet titled Night Rules. I laughed at first. They read like something out of a creepypasta. Don't use the service elevator after 2 a.m. If you hear laughter in the food court, do not respond. Never look directly at the carousel mirrors. Don't talk to anyone who isn't on the schedule. Keep the lights on in Sector C, even if the power flickers. I looked up, expecting Hanley to grin. He didn't. Do you expect me to take these seriously? I asked. You'll understand if you last the week. Something about the way he said if instead of when stuck with me. My first night started just before midnight. The mall loomed against the skyline like a hollow carcass, every window boarded, every entrance sealed except the one I had a key for. When I stepped inside, the smell hit me. Old perfume, wet concrete, and dust that tasted metallic. The power grid was half dead, running on backup generators. The overhead lights buzzed weakly, leaving long shadows that swayed when I moved. My boots echoed in the empty halls, one step, then another and another. I started humming just to fill the void. That's when I noticed something strange. Every time I hummed, the echo didn't match. It came half a beat late, and sometimes continued after I'd stopped. Hello? The sound carried down the corridor and died in the distance. No reply. Still, it didn't feel right. At 1:42 a.m., I reached the food court. Broken tables, chairs stacked in heaps, grease stains fossilized into the tiles. I flicked my flashlight across the space and saw something I didn't expect. One of the menu boards still glowed faintly. Pizzaland, 2.99 specials. The power to that section was supposed to be cut decades ago. I went behind the counter to check the wiring, but all the outlets were dead. The light shouldn't have been on. The intercom above me crackled once, just static. I ignored it and moved on. Then came the faintest sound. Laughter. Children. It drifted from somewhere near the carousel on the lower level, distant but real, the kind of laughter that rises and falls like waves. I froze. My hand went straight to the rule sheet in my pocket. If you hear laughter in the food court, do not respond. My throat went dry. I wanted to radio Hanley, but the signal only hissed back. So I waited. 1 minute, 2. The laughter faded, replaced by the hum of the lights overhead. Just my imagination, I muttered. Old pipes, maybe, except there were no pipes near the carousel. By 2:07 a.m., I was back near the service corridor. My shift should have been halfway done, and nothing else had happened. I told myself the rules were just there to scare rookies. I even laughed out loud, though it sounded hollow in that space. Still, curiosity got the better of me. Rule number 1 said not to use the service elevator after 2 a.m., so at 2:10 I walked over to it. The button was covered in grime. I pressed it anyway. The light flickered red, out of order. But the doors opened. A cold draft hit my face. The inside of the elevator smelled like salt water and rust. Someone had carved something into the wall with a key or knife. Stay upstairs. I took a step inside. The floor groaned under my weight. Then, from the corner of the shaft, a drop of water fell and hit my shoe. Except it wasn't water. It was warm. I backed out fast, pressing the button again to close the doors. They didn't move. The red light blinked irregularly, almost like it was pulsing. That was enough adventure for one night. I turned around and started walking back toward the atrium. That's when I noticed the lights had stopped flickering. Everything was still. Too still. The kind of silence that buzzes in your ears. I shone my flashlight ahead, sweeping across shuttered storefronts, cracked tiles, torn banners. Nothing. Then in the beam, something glimmered. A candle. Sitting perfectly upright on the counter, inside the old Toyland store. Its flame steady, not flickering. I froze. The mall had no power, no heat, no draft. Nothing should have been able to burn in here. I stepped closer, pressing my hand to the glass. The candlelight reflected faintly, and behind it, in the dark, I thought I saw movement. A small hand. I blinked, and it was gone. The candle burned on, bright and new. We shouldn't be here, I whispered before catching myself. We. I swallowed hard and forced a laugh. Guess I'm more tired than I thought. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was awake in the mall with me. And as I turned to leave, the intercom crackled again. this time with a soft, breathy voice. "Good night, Marcus." I spun around. The candle flame flickered out. And just like that, the moor went dark. I wasn't supposed to hear anything that night. That's what I keep telling myself. It was supposed to be silent. Dead, like the rest of this place. But silence doesn't echo. The candle from Toyland had burned itself down to a wax puddle by the time I made another round. I didn't report it. I should have. But something in me didn't want to talk to Mr. Hanley again. The way he watched me when he handed over those rules, like he already knew I wouldn't follow them, it stuck in my head. So, I pocketed the half-melted candle stub, locked the Toyland gate, and told myself I'd imagined the faint music. But the thing about this mall is, it remembers noise. By 1:45 a.m., I was sitting in the food court, drinking cold coffee from my thermos. The neon Pizza World sign across from me buzzed like a dying fly. Wind slipped through the cracked skylight, carrying the faintest whistle. For a while it almost felt peaceful. Then I heard it, soft and distant, like a child's giggle. I froze. At first I told myself it was the air ducts, or maybe rats. Detroit's full of both. But then the laughter came again, higher pitched this time, followed by another. 2 voices, maybe 3. I remembered the rule. If you hear laughter in the food court, do not respond. My thumb brushed the paper folded in my jacket pocket. I laughed quietly to myself, because really, how stupid was that? Don't respond to laughter. What was I supposed to do? Laugh back? Still, I felt my throat tighten. I called out anyway. "Hey, anyone there?" The laughter stopped. I don't know how long I sat listening to the nothing that followed, but every shadow around me felt heavier. The air seemed thicker, like the mall itself was holding its breath. I decided to check the security cameras. The feed ran off an old CRT monitor in the back office, dusty and half flickering. The food court camera showed nothing, just my empty chair. But when I leaned closer, I noticed movement at the edge of the frame, a blur near Toyland. Someone, something, was standing just beyond the glass gate. I blinked, leaned closer. The screen rolled for a second, static biting across it. When it cleared, the figure was gone. I didn't breathe until I heard my radio crackle. "Marcus." It was Hanley's voice, flat, unbothered. "Yeah? Stay away from Toyland tonight." A beat of silence, then, before I could respond, the line went dead. I stared at the radio like it might explain itself. It didn't. By 2:03, I was pacing the corridors again, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. I told myself I'd just check the locks, make sure the place was secure, and head back. Simple. But when I passed the carousel, I couldn't help glancing at those mirrors. The rule said not to look directly at them, but rules lose meaning when you're alone long enough. I turned the flashlight toward the glass panels, letting the beam slide over the painted horses, the cracked bulbs, the mirrors smeared with dust. My reflection wavered, distorted by years of grime. Then another reflection blinked back at me, not mine, a pale face, smiling. Behind me, I spun around. Nothing there, just the carousel, still and silent. I told myself it was the beam bouncing weird, or maybe a trick of the glass. But when I looked back, the face was closer. It wasn't mimicking me, it was watching me. I backed away fast, nearly tripping over a fallen sign. My flashlight sputtered once, then died completely. In the dark, I could still see the faintest shimmer of that smile on the glass, like light trapped under the surface. I didn't run. Not yet. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to give the mall the satisfaction. Instead, I stumbled back to the security office and locked the door. The monitors glowed dimly, static flickering over half the feeds. In the Toyland camera, the candle was lit again. No one had gone in. At least, not anyone I could see. The laughter started again, faint through the walls, closer this time, circling the office like the mall itself was breathing in whispers. I pressed my hands against my ears, muttering to myself that it was all in my head, that I'd been awake too long. But the radio hissed again, and Hanley's voice whispered through the static, barely audible, like he was standing inside the wire. "You shouldn't have looked." The laughter stopped instantly. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was waiting. Turned off the monitors and sat in the dark until dawn seeped. Through the cracked skylights, when the light hit the food court, I saw footprints, small ones, trailing wet across the tiles. They led from Toyland to where I'd been sitting. I didn't want to go back. After that night, I told myself I'd quit. I even drafted the text to Hanley, thumb hovering over send. But something stopped me, something small and stupid. The paycheck hadn't cleared yet. Or maybe that's just the excuse I tell myself. Because deep down, I think I wanted to know what I saw. When I came back for my second shift, the mall was colder. The kind of cold that feels personal, like the air itself resents you. The lights in the atrium flickered in slow rhythm, humming like they were breathing. I clocked in and checked the cameras. Toyland's feed was dark. The carousel feed, half static, half motion blur, like something was spinning, even though I knew it wasn't plugged in. I told myself I'd prove it, just prove it wasn't real. The carousel sat in the middle of the entertainment wing, surrounded by cracked tiles and half-collapsed banners that still read Grand Opening, 1989. Every footstep echoed like I was walking through someone else's memory. The air smelled like old dust and faint engine oil. When my flashlight landed on the mirrors, they seemed cleaner than before, polished. My reflection stared back, except for one mirror, the largest one. That one didn't show me at all. It showed the carousel horses. Every one of them turned toward me, eyes wide, their painted grins chipped into sneers. I took a step closer. My breath fogged the glass. That's when I saw it. In the mirror's surface, behind the horses, a figure was standing, still, watching. It looked like me. I turned around. Nothing. Empty carousel, empty hall, only the hum of dying lights. When I looked back, the reflection hadn't moved, but it was smiling now, teeth too white, too straight. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the flashlight. It rolled, its beam spinning across the horses. For a split second, they all seemed to twitch, heads turning slightly, like they were following the light. I stumbled back and hit something solid. My heart nearly stopped until I realized it was one of the support poles. Except, the pole was warm. Something wet dripped from above. I looked up. The fiberglass horse above me had tears painted on its face. Only now they were real. Thick, dark streaks running down its muzzle. Blood. I ran. I don't remember getting back to the security office. Just the sound of my boots on tile and the frantic wheeze in my chest. The monitors buzzed, snowed with static. Only one feed showed anything. Carousel cam, the horses were still. Every one of them, except the mirrors. Each mirror showed something different. Not reflections, scenes. In one, I saw the food court filled with people. Shoppers, kids, employees, all frozen mid-motion, like a paused video from a decade ago. In another, Toyland was lit up, toys moving on their own. The shelves stacked neatly as if it were still open for business. And in the last mirror feed, I saw myself, sitting in the security office, staring at the cameras. Except, I wasn't wearing my uniform. I was wearing the old mall mascot costume, the one that's been locked in storage since the 90s. My radio crackled. "Marcus," Hanley said, but his voice wasn't calm this time. It was shaking. "You looked in the mirrors again, didn't you?" I don't know what's happening," I stammered. "What's wrong with this place?" "Listen to me carefully," he said, low and quick. "The mall remembers its workers. It keeps them." "What?" The static swallowed his answer. When it cleared, the line was dead. That's when I noticed something on the wall. The rule sheet, the one Hanley gave me, was different. The ink had bled, the paper yellowed, but the text had changed. Rule number 3 used to say, "Never look directly at the carousel mirrors." Now it said, "If you see your reflection move, leave immediately." I tore it down, shaking, and that's when I realized the door to the office was open. I hadn't opened it. Something shuffled in the hall, soft, dragging steps. I turned the flashlight toward the door. The beam landed on scuffed shoes, old and soaked, like they'd been walking through water, then legs, then a torso, and then my own face. The reflection from the mirror was standing in front of me, skin pale and smooth like wax. Its eyes were black, no whites at all. It tilted its head like it was studying me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then it whispered in my voice, flat, mechanical. "Shifts over." The lights went out. When they came back, the reflection was gone. So was the flashlight. But in its place, lying on the floor where it stood, was a cracked carousel horse's eye. Plastic, but wet, glistening like something alive. I don't remember leaving. I just remember the mall lights humming behind me as I drove away, my hands gripping the wheel so tight they hurt. When I finally looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror, I swear it smiled first. I didn't go back the next night. At least, that's what I told myself. But when I woke up, the mall keys were already in my pocket, and the security badge was clipped to my shirt. I don't even remember putting them there. My phone said it was 11:57 p.m., 3 minutes before my shift started. The car drove itself, or maybe my mind did. The streets of Detroit were empty, coated in a thin film of ice, reflecting neon lights that didn't belong to any working store. By the time I reached the mall gates, I wasn't even surprised to see the lights already on inside. Someone had clocked me in. The moment I stepped into the atrium, the smell hit me, something sweet, rotting and oddly familiar, like old popcorn soaked in bleach. The loudspeakers crackled overhead. Then came that music, the jingle, the one I'd only heard on security tapes. Bright, cheery, horribly out of place. Meet your friends at Hanley Mall, where the smiles never end. I froze. Hanley Mall. That's what this place was called before it shut down. And that name, Hanley, same as my supervisor. He'd never mentioned that before. The tune repeated, warped, slower now, like a record dying mid-spin. Then I saw it. A figure standing under the broken escalator, 7 feet tall, hunched, wearing something that looked like an animal costume, bright red and blue fur, a cracked plastic smile, oversized gloves, the mall's old mascot, Happy Harry the Beaver. I'd seen the costume once before, years ago. It was supposed to have been destroyed. The mascot tilted its head at me, just like the reflection had. "Hanley?" I whispered into the radio. "There's someone here, a costume. Is that you?" Static. Then, "Go to the basement, Marcus." It wasn't a command. It was a plea. The figure didn't move as I passed it, but its head followed me. Every squeak of its joints echoed down the corridor, like the air was amplifying the sound just for me. The basement access door was behind the old arcade. The padlock was broken. Inside, the stairwell reeked of mold and old coolant. I aimed my flashlight down, the beam disappearing into black. Halfway down, I heard footsteps following me, slow, deliberate, mimicking mine. When I stopped, they stopped. When I started again, they waited, one beat longer, before continuing. At the bottom was the maintenance corridor, low ceiling, flickering bulbs, water dripping from overhead pipes. My light caught something scrawled on the concrete in black marker. Keep him smiling, dozens of times, over and over. Then I saw the doors, heavy steel ones, unmarked, lining both sides of the hall. Each had a small observation window. Inside the first room was a chair, a single wooden chair facing the wall. The second room, another chair, and another. But the third door was open. Inside was the mascot costume, or what was left of it. The fur was peeled away, revealing a mechanical skeleton underneath. Wires dangled from the arms, twitching faintly. Its jaw was still moving, open, close, open, close, like it was chewing invisible words. I took a step closer. That's when the jaw stopped, and a voice came from inside the costume's head. "Marcus," it rasped. "You're late." I stumbled back, slamming into the wall. I don't know who you are," I stammered. "You're not real." The mascot's hand twitched, pointing toward the corner of the room. There, half buried under a tarp, was a faded file box. I pulled it free, my fingers shaking. Inside were employee records, photographs, maintenance logs, all from 1991, and one photo stopped my breath. A group of mall staff posing in front of the carousel, smiling, all except one, standing in the back, his face half turned, wearing the same uniform I was wearing now. Name tag, Marcus Hanley. Security, Hanley. My supervisor. My name, meet your friends at Hanley Mall, where the smiles never end. The voice was wrong, distorted. It was my voice now. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. The laughter from the food court echoed, high-pitched, looping, mechanical. The mirrors in the carousel shimmered, each one showing a different version of me. One screaming, one laughing, one watching. Hanley knelt beside me, his tone gentle. "You looked into the mirrors. You took his reflection. That's how it works, Marcus." He needed a new guard. He placed something cold and heavy in my hands, the mascot's head. Happy Harry. Its glassy eyes stared straight into me. My reflection moved first. "Smile," it whispered. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't stop. The corners of my mouth stretched, muscles aching, skin splitting at the sides. I tried to scream, but the sound came out as laughter. Laughter that didn't belong to me. I stumbled backward into the carousel, its motion pulling me in. The mirrors warped, the reflections merging until there was only one face, mine, painted red and blue, frozen in a permanent grin. When the lights went out, I thought it was over. But this morning I woke up again. In the security office, the cameras were on. Feed 1, food court, empty. Feed 2, atrium, empty. Feed 3, carousel, turning, slowly, and standing beside it, was me. The monitor flickered. For a split second, I saw something else. A group of people walking into the mall. A new crew, maintenance workers maybe, one of them holding a clipboard. I recognized the name stitched into his vest. Hanley. The radio crackled. "Welcome to your first night, Marcus," my own voice said. "Don't forget the rules." I looked down at the laminated sheet on the desk. 7 rules, fresh ink. But the last one was different again. Rule number 7. When your reflection smiles first, your shift begins. I stared into the monitor. My reflection on the screen smiled. First, the loudspeakers came alive. Keep him smiling, Marcus. Keep him smiling. Story number 3, they say the night shift is quiet, but they never tell you why. And if you think I'm crazy for following the rules, then tell me why the fryer still sizzles when it's turned off, or why we're not supposed to look at the customer in window 3 after 2:17 am. No, really, tell me. Because I stopped following the rules last night, and now the cameras won't stop showing my face, even when I'm not there. You ever notice how every fast food place feels? The same at night, same buzzing lights, same smell of oil that never quite washes off your hands, same empty parking lot stretching into nothing. But there's something about this place, something that doesn't stop when we close. My name's Miles. I work the midnight shift at a burger joint off Highway 17. You've probably driven past it. Big yellow M that flickers like a dying heartbeat. I don't know why I'm recording this, I guess. I just need someone to hear it. Someone who doesn't already know what's going on. They told me it's normal to feel paranoid when you're alone that late. That the shadows play tricks. But shadows don't breathe, do they? When I first got the job, my manager, Donna, handed me this laminated sheet. The Midnight Operations Manual. It wasn't like the normal safety stuff though. It had rules. Weird rules. Things like, if you hear the fryers turn on by themselves, don't check them. Never speak to the drive-through voice after 2 a.m. Keep the lobby lights dim. Bright light attracts attention. And never, ever check the back freezer twice. I laughed. Thought it was some initiation prank for new hires. Donna didn't laugh. She just said, you follow the rules, you keep your job. You break them, what you call maintenance. That was 4 weeks ago. Or 3. Actually, no, it's been 5. Sorry, I've been losing track lately. The first few nights were quiet. Just me, the hum of the soda machine, and the sound of rain on the roof. I liked the solitude. It was better than hearing my roommates fight or my phone buzz with calls I didn't want to answer. But around my second week, I started noticing little things, like the clock on the wall freezing at 2:17 a.m. for exactly 60 seconds before jumping forward, or the headset crackling with static, even when all the orders were done. Donna said it was just interference, but then, one night, I heard whispering through the comms. Someone breathing, slow and steady between channels. That was the same night my coworker Eli quit. Or maybe he didn't quit. I never actually saw him leave. They told me to finish the shift alone that night. Said he'd texted in his resignation. But when I went to clock out, his apron was still hanging on the hook. His car was still in the lot. The police came the next morning. They said there were no footprints in the mud. No signs anyone left at all. After that, I stopped asking questions. I still follow the rules, mostly out of habit now. Even the dumb ones. Like last night. Around 1:45 a.m., the fryer started sizzling on its own. I heard the oil bubbling, popping, the smell filling the room. I looked. It was cold, unplugged, still sizzling. I didn't touch it, just turned away and said out loud, I'm not checking that. The sound stopped immediately. I've also stopped looking directly at the security cameras. The feed glitches whenever I do. Sometimes the monitors show me walking in from the back door, even when I'm sitting at the counter watching it happen. Donna says the system's old, but when I checked the timestamp on one of the recordings, it said October 17th, 2019. That's 3 years ago. Same layout, same kitchen, same person in uniform, same me. Anyway, that's not what this recording's about. Tonight it's the manual again. Someone rewrote part of it. I swear. When I clocked in, there were new lines printed at the bottom in red ink. If you hear cleaning after closing, leave it be. Do not investigate the restroom lights. Lock the front door twice. The first one isn't real. I didn't write that. Donna says she didn't either. I thought it might have been a prank until I heard it. Around 12:30, I was wiping down the counters. The place was empty, but from the back, near the mop sink, I heard someone scrubbing, not like a sound from the pipes. Real, rhythmic scrubbing, slow, circular motions. I thought maybe Donna came in early, so I said, "Hey, I got it covered back here." The sound stopped, and then, after a few seconds, something whispered, "You missed a spot." I dropped the rag and ran out front. Checked every corner, every door, nothing. But the floor was wet. When I told Donna this morning, she sighed and said, "Yeah, that's Rule 6. I told her there was no Rule 6. She said, "There is now." She was serious, completely calm. Then she took out her pen, walked to the manual, and wrote a new line beneath the others. "If you hear your name after midnight, pretend you didn't." So, yeah, that's my life now. I flip burgers for ghosts or whatever these things are, and I try not to break the rules. People online keep saying I should quit, but you don't understand. When I tried once, I came home to find a delivery bag sitting on my porch. No address, no receipt, just a note that said, "Your shift's not over." Anyway, it's almost 2 a.m. again, and there's that crackle in the headset. It always happens right before something changes. I keep telling myself it's interference, but part of me wonders what would happen if I just answered it. "No, I won't. Not tonight." Sound of headset static growing louder. Wait, someone just said my name. He looks up at the drive-through monitor. A faint light flickers in the rain outside. He hesitates, whispering into the recorder. This is probably nothing, just another glitch. Static surges. But if you're hearing this and I don't upload again, it started at window 3. I don't know why I turned toward the drive-through window. Habit maybe, or instinct. That same static that had been buzzing in my headset. It was coming from outside now, seeping through the glass like a swarm of bees caught in a jar. I stood there for a long time, staring into the dark lot beyond window 3. Rain smeared the glass, each drop dragging neon reflections down into warped streaks. The speaker box out there blinked faintly. A red light, pulsing slow, like it was breathing. Then, through the static, a voice whispered, "Order ready for pickup." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. I froze. We hadn't had an order in nearly 2 hours. I took off the headset, but the voice didn't stop. It was still coming, muffled now, filtered through the drive-through intercom like someone speaking from underwater. Order ready for pickup. Miles, that last part. No one was supposed to know my name. I tried to keep calm, told myself it was Donna messing with me. She has the override channel, so I pressed the talk button and said, "Not funny, Donna. You almost gave me a heart attack." The response came instantly. "Donna's not here." I dropped the headset. It hit the counter with a hollow clack and went silent. For the next few minutes, I just stood there, listening. Nothing but the rain again. But then the lights flickered. Once, twice, and the security cameras rebooted on their own. Every screen flashed white, then black. When the feed stabilized, something had changed. The timestamp on all 6 cameras now read 2:01 a.m., but the clock above the fryer said 1:42. I swear I checked it 3 times. One of the monitors, the one showing the drive-through lane, and was still glitching. The picture kept rolling like old VHS tape static. But between the distortions, I caught glimpses of something standing near the speaker box. At first I thought it was a trick of the rain. Then I realized the figure wasn't wet. It just stood there, perfectly still, facing the window. I thought about locking myself in the office, but the rules said nothing about that. The rules only said, don't speak to the drive-through voice after 2 a.m. So if I didn't speak, I was safe, right? I turned off the headset, unplugged the base, even pulled the wall cable. But when I looked back up, the monitor still showed the red light blinking, and the figure had moved closer. Now it was standing directly beneath the awning, still not wet, still watching. The weirdest part? When I blinked, it blinked too, at the exact same rhythm. I know that doesn't sound scary written down, but when you see someone moving in perfect sync with you, it's not a coincidence. It's like they're waiting for you to move again. I turned away, counted 10 seconds, looked back, gone. I should have left then, but my brain kept whispering the same thought. You didn't lock the window. I don't even remember walking toward it. One moment I was standing by the counter, the next my hand was reaching for the latch. The cold air leaked in through the small gap where the seal didn't close all the way. That's when I smelled it, like burnt oil and wet metal, a smell that didn't belong to rain or fries or cleaning chemicals. And then I heard the headset, even though I'd unplugged it, crackle back to life. Order ready. Pick up at window 3, I whispered. I'm not opening it. Then we'll come in. Every bulb in the ceiling went out at once. The entire restaurant plunged into black. The fryers clicked off. The drink machine fizzed once, then silence. The only sound was the rain and the faint tap, 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 coming from the drive-through glass. I grabbed my phone to use as a flashlight, but the screen refused to turn on. Dead. The tapping grew faster, then it stopped. And from somewhere behind me, inside the restaurant, a voice whispered through the dark, "You missed a spot." That phrase again, the one from last night. I spun around and caught the faintest shimmer of movement, a reflection on the metal counter sliding out of frame. My breath fogged the air in front of me. It was freezing now, like someone had opened the freezer door wide, but the freezer door was closed. I could see it from where I stood. Still, something inside was scratching, slow and deliberate, as if it was tracing letters in frost. I backed toward the lobby. My foot hit something soft. Eli's apron, the same one he left hanging, except now it was wet. I made it to the front door, tried to unlock it, but the latch jammed. I remembered the line from the new rules, lock the front door twice. The first one isn't real. I'd only locked it once. I fumbled with the keys, but the metal kept slipping in my shaking hands. Behind me, the headset whispered one final phrase, clear, crisp, calm, shift complete. The door finally gave way. I ran into the rain. I didn't stop until I reached my car. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the keys twice before getting them in the ignition. As the engine started, I looked back through the windshield. The restaurant was dark, except for that one faint red light at window 3, blinking, steady, patient, and just before I drove off, the speaker crackled one more time, loud enough for me to hear through the storm. See you tomorrow night, Miles. I didn't go home that night. I drove around until sunrise, circling the empty streets of our small town like a ghost with nowhere to haunt. The rain followed me, heavy, relentless, drumming on the roof until I couldn't tell if the shaking in my hands was from fear or caffeine. When the first light hit the sky, I finally parked outside my apartment complex and just sat there. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that red light blinking at window 3. Every time I blinked, I swore it blinked back. By the time I dragged myself inside, I'd convinced myself it had to be exhaustion, stress, a trick of light and too much overtime. But the smell followed me in. That burnt oil and metal smell, clinging to my hoodie like the place had marked me. I didn't tell anyone. Not my manager, not Donna, especially not corporate. They already thought I was unstable after Eli quit. They said I'd been hearing things, taking too many breaks, showing signs of sleep deprivation. The funny thing is, they weren't wrong. That night, I told myself I wasn't going back. But when 11:45 p.m. rolled around, I was standing in uniform at the staff door, key in hand, pretending I had a choice. Maybe it's the paycheck, maybe it's pride, or maybe, and I hate saying this, maybe I just wanted to see it again. When I unlocked the back door, the smell hit first. Fryer oil, bleach, something sweet beneath it, like syrup left too long on a hot surface. The lights were already on. I didn't turn them on. Someone had cleaned. Counters were spotless. Floors gleamed. Even the sink was dry, except there was one thing off. The camera monitor above the register was already running, looping the previous night's footage. At least, that's what I thought. It took me a full minute to notice the timestamp. 2:11 a.m. And there I was on screen, standing at the drive-through window, staring out into the dark. I felt my stomach knot up. That couldn't be live footage. It was me from yesterday. But then the version of me on the monitor turned its head, slowly, and stared directly at the camera. I stumbled back. The stool hit the counter with a clang, echoing through the restaurant. I looked up again, expecting the feed to cut or glitch. It didn't. The me on screen smiled, and then he raised his hand and waved. I tore the plug from the wall. The monitor went black, except the reflection didn't vanish. For a second, I could still see him, my own outline, burned faintly into the screen like a ghost image. I tried to laugh it off, but it came out sounding like a sob. Around 1:50 a.m., I started hearing the soft hum of the freezer again, that familiar mechanical rumble. Only this time, there was a rhythm to it, like breathing. I kept repeating to myself, just 15 minutes till 2. Just make it to 2. I thought of the rule. Don't speak to the drive-through voice after 2 a.m., but no one ever said what happens before that. I turned toward the window. The parking lot was empty. Rain still fell, but lighter now, almost gentle. Then I saw it, in the glass of the drive-through window, my reflection. Except my reflection wasn't moving like me. I leaned forward. It leaned back. I tilted my head. It stayed still, and when I whispered, "Who are you?" it smiled. I stumbled away, grabbed the mop handle like it could protect me. Behind me, the headset buzzed faintly. I didn't touch it. Not again. But the reflection, or whatever it was, lifted its hand and pointed behind me. I turned around. The freezer door was open. The light inside flickered, swinging shadows across the floor. Something glistened on the tiles. Water! No, oil. The same slick trail leading from the freezer to the counter, as if something had been dragged. I followed it with my eyes until it disappeared under the prep table. I crouched, slowly. There was a shoe under there, Eli's shoe, still wet. My heart slammed against my ribs. When I stood, the camera monitor flickered back to life, on its own. Static hissed, and through the blur I saw the drive-through again. This time, 2 figures stood under the awning. One was the reflection. The other, Eli. He looked pale, soaked, his eyes completely black in the low light. And when the speaker crackled, his voice came through. "You didn't lock it twice, Miles." I threw the headset across the room, but it didn't matter. His voice was in my head now, repeating. Layered, distorted, like a recording looping itself. Shift complete. Order ready. Lock it twice. The cameras blinked again. The reflection on the monitor leaned close, almost pressing its face against the lens. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. The same scar on the eyebrow, the same chipped tooth, the same exhausted eyes. But there was one difference. His uniform tag didn't say Miles. It said Eli. The power went out. The screen faded to black. And from somewhere inside the freezer came a faint, steady knock. One beat every few seconds. I think that's when I realized something I'd been refusing to admit. Eli never quit. He never left. And whatever I've been seeing, whatever's been answering me through that drive-through, it knows my name because it's wearing my face. I don't remember driving home that night. One moment, I was standing in front of that dead monitor, staring at the black screen like it could swallow me whole. And the next, I was sitting in my car outside my apartment. The clock on the dashboard said 2 a.m. That didn't make sense. I'd just checked the time inside the restaurant. It had been 2:47. Somewhere between the fryer and the driver's seat, I lost 47 minutes. The first thing I did was look in the mirror. My reflection looked normal, tired, pale, hollow-eyed, sure. But mine, then, as I reached for the ignition, I saw it. A grease stain on my collar that hadn't been there before. A small red tag sewn above my name patch. It didn't say Miles. It said Eli. That was 3 nights ago. Or maybe it was last night. I'm not sure anymore. Every time I try to sleep, I hear the headset crackle. Faint, distant, like a voice trying to crawl through static. Sometimes I even answer it before realizing there's no one on the other end. I've stopped checking my phone. The clock keeps changing every time I look at it. Last night, I think, I got a call from the manager, Donna. She said the security system had been acting strange. Cameras looping footage, recordings saving files with future timestamps, dates that haven't happened yet. She sounded nervous, kept asking if I'd been editing anything, if I'd gone into the system. I told her no. She didn't believe me. Come in tonight, she said. We need to review it together. I didn't want to go, but she made it sound like I already had. When I arrived, the restaurant looked different. Too clean, too perfect. Every chair was aligned, every counter wiped spotless. The fryers glistened under the fluorescence like they'd never been used. And there, taped above the sink, was the rule sheet. Only on it wasn't the same one. The old rules were gone. New ones had been typed in their place. Clock out by 2 a.m. Check the freezer twice. If Donna speaks to you after closing, she isn't Donna. I backed away slowly, feeling my heart pound. Then I heard the office door open. "Hey, Miles," Donna said, cheerful and calm. Her voice was normal, too normal. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I tried to tell her about the new rule sheet, but when I pointed to it, it was gone. Just a blank tile wall. She said she wanted to show me something. Led me into the manager's office where the monitors flickered with security footage. Every screen showed the same angle. The drive-through window, rain outside, empty parking lot, until, in one feed, I saw us walk in, her leading, me following. Only that couldn't be right. We were standing there, watching it. Then the me on screen turned and looked straight into the camera. "You're late," it said. Donna gasped. I think she tried to speak, but her voice came out warped, glitching, like a sound file skipping. Her image on the monitor distorted too, faces overlapping. One frame showing her smiling, the next with her mouth open far too wide. I stepped back. The lights in the office dimmed to a sickly yellow, then the drive-through speaker crackled to life. Clock out, Miles. You've been here too long. The monitors began flashing timestamps. Tomorrow's date, next week's, next month's. Each frame showed me at the counter, headset on, taking orders from invisible customers. In one clip, I was mopping blood off the floor. In another, I was unlocking the freezer door and helping someone, or something, crawl out. Donna collapsed. When I turned to her, her face was pale, eyes wide. She whispered, "It's looping. Don't you get it? It's the same night over and over." And then, before I could move, the power went out again. I used my phone light to find my way out, stumbling through the dark toward the front counter. The air was colder now, sharp and wet, like breathing through ice. The drive-through headset buzzed once, then, faintly, "Order up." I froze. The speaker light glowed red, just like before. The monitor screens in the office flickered back on. Only one camera still worked. It showed the parking lot. And outside, under the yellow street lamp, was me, standing in the rain, headset on, smiling. I dropped my phone. The light from the screen spun across the floor, catching on something near the register, a laminated tag. It was a name tag, grease-stained, burnt around the edges. It said, Miles. The headset voice came again, calm, almost kind. "Clock out, Eli. It's checkout time." And for the first time, I didn't correct it, because somewhere deep down, I realized something horrible. Maybe I was never Miles at all. Maybe I'd been working someone else's shift this whole time. They always said the midnight shift changes you, but no one told me it could replace you. I came back tonight because I had to. I don't even remember deciding. My body just knew the way. The roads blurred by in a grey haze, like I'd driven them 1,000 times before. Maybe I have. When I parked, the restaurant was already lit from the inside, but I hadn't clocked in yet, and through the fogged window, I saw someone moving, wearing my uniform. That was the first time I felt it fully. The cold, sinking certainty that the loop didn't just trap me, it duplicated me. I unlocked the back door. The smell of fryer oil and bleach hit hard, sharp as a blade. My reflection in the stainless steel looked different. Tighter smile, darker eyes. On the counter sat 2 name tags, Eli and Miles, mine and his, but I couldn't remember which one I'd worn first. The headset crackled. "Order up." My stomach turned. That voice, I knew it. Not the tone, but the rhythm, the breathing between words. It was me. I pressed the talk button. "Who is this?" Static. Then, "The one who stayed." The words echoed through every speaker in the restaurant, overlapping like feedback. The lights flickered. The fryer hissed, empty but bubbling, as though something invisible cooked beneath the oil. The freezer door was open again, and the air spilling out was thick, foggy, alive. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. Every window showed the parking lot repeating itself like a looped film reel. Rain falling, street lamp humming, my car parked, and my silhouette inside it, head tilted, smiling. I think I started talking to the camera at that point, not to record evidence, just to prove I existed. "Okay," I whispered, staring at the lens. "My name is..." And then I froze, because I couldn't finish the sentence. It wasn't that I forgot. It was that the name felt wrong, like wearing someone else's skin. The camera light blinked red. Recording. And from the monitor behind me, a voice whispered, perfectly matching my tone, "My name is Eli." I spun around, and there I was again, on the screen. But this time, It wasn't a reflection. He was standing behind me in the feed. I turned. Nothing. When I looked back, he'd moved closer. His face was mine, but older somehow. Grease-stained. Eyes sunken deep into grey circles. His smile never wavered. "You didn't clock out," he said. "Someone had to stay." I ran, pushed through the kitchen, toward the back exit. Every step echoed. Too loud, like someone else was running beside me. I reached the door and slammed my key into the lock. It didn't turn. Through the reflection on the metal surface, I saw him walking up behind me, slow, calm, and then, softly, "You're not supposed to leave, Eli." His hand touched my shoulder, freezing cold. I turned, ready to fight, but the second I did, he vanished. The room was empty again. That's when the intercom clicked on, all on its own. Every speaker in the place hissed alive. 100 voices, my voice, whispering, chanting, overlapping in perfect sync. Shift complete. Order ready. Clock out. The lights dimmed to a deep red glow. The fryer oil shimmered, and for the first time I saw shapes moving inside it. Limbs, faces, uniforms, all of them me. I dropped to my knees. Something inside me broke, or maybe finally remembered. I wasn't the new guy. I wasn't the survivor. I was the copy. The one they made to keep the place running when the real Eli vanished into the freezer. The rules weren't warnings. They were containment protocols. I don't know how long I sat there. The static faded into quiet. The hum of the freezer slowed until it was almost gentle, like breathing again. When I stood, I was calm, empty, ready. The drive-through speaker blinked red. "Welcome back, Miles." I smiled, because now I understood. The loop wasn't punishment. It was maintenance. Someone always has to work the midnight shift. I walked to the counter, adjusted my name tag, the one that said Miles, and pressed the register key. The headset fit perfectly over my ears. Outside, headlights pulled into the lot. A new car. A new hire, probably. I took a deep breath, straightened my uniform, and said into the mic, "Welcome to Burger Box. Can I take your order?" Story number. When I joined the volunteer fire department, I thought the rules were a joke, like initiation stuff. But then I broke rule no. 3. And I swear to God, I watched my own captain burn alive without fire. He was screaming, but nothing touched him. And the worst part? The others just watched, like it was normal. You ever hear a man scream while his shadow burns before he does? No? Then you've never been to Dry Creek, Texas. You ever drive so far out into the desert that your radio just gives up? No static, no music, just silence. Like even sound doesn't bother living there anymore. That's where Dry Creek starts. A town so empty, even the road signs look like they want to leave. When I first got there, I told myself it was just a fresh start. New job, new people, new me. That's what I said out loud. But really, I was just running from the last fire I couldn't put out. The town sits in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by fields of sunburnt grass and windmills that don't spin anymore. You'd think a place like that wouldn't even need a fire department. But when I walked into Station 19, peeling red paint, windows fogged from old smoke, it was buzzing like the heart of something still alive. 5 guys sat around a folding table, laughing over cold coffee, until I walked in, then they stopped. The man at the head of the table stood up, grey beard, weathered face, and eyes that looked like he hadn't seen real sleep in years. "Carter?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I said, trying to sound like I'd done this before. "Captain Brooks," he said. "We heard about your background." I froze. I didn't know what they'd heard, or what they thought they'd heard. Brooks nodded toward the wall. Rules are posted over there. We keep things simple here. You follow those, you'll last. That's when I noticed the laminated sheet pinned to a corkboard. 7 bullet points in faded black marker. The 7 rules of Dry Creek Fire Department. They looked harmless, dumb even. Rule number 1, always answer the call. Rule number 2, never go alone. Rule number 3, don't answer a call with no name. Rule number 4, don't look in mirrors after a night fire. Rule number 5, don't let them touch your gear. Rule number 6, if you smell smoke but see no fire, run. Rule number 7, redacted. The last line was blacked out. Thick ink, like someone had tried to erase a word they didn't want remembered. I chuckled. What's this, some kind of hazing thing? Nobody laughed. Not even the kid in the back, who looked barely 20. Brooks said, "They're not jokes. You'll understand soon enough." That night, I was given a bunk upstairs. Just me, an old mattress, and a flickering fluorescent light that buzzed like a dying wasp. The firehouse smelled like diesel and sweat, but under that, something else. Like burned wood that never cooled down. I should have slept, but I couldn't. I kept staring at that list, thinking about how serious everyone looked when they read it. The blacked out rule bothered me the most. It wasn't just hidden, it was erased. Around midnight, the silence of the station broke. Someone was moving downstairs, boots on concrete. I grabbed my jacket and headed down. The main bay was dim, only one light over the trucks. Captain Brooks stood by the board, hands behind his back, staring at the rules like they were scripture. He didn't turn when he spoke. "Can't sleep?" "Not used to the quiet," I said. "Back in Dallas, the sirens never stopped." He nodded slowly. "Quiet can be louder than any siren, son." I waited for him to laugh. He didn't. After a while, he said, "You read the rules?" "Yeah. Kinda weird, but sure." "Good. Memorize them before the next call." I shrugged. "Shouldn't be hard. I've followed plenty of rules before." That got his attention. He turned, eyes narrowing just a bit. "And how'd that work out for you?" I looked away. It could have been worse. He studied me for a moment, then said quietly, "In this town, we follow those rules because we learned what happens when we don't. The fire here, it doesn't just burn wood." That made me laugh before I could stop myself. "Right, it burns souls, huh?" He didn't laugh back. He walked to the board, tapped the blacked out line. "You want to know what the last rule says?" "Sure," I said. "You can't," he replied. "Not yet. Why not?" "Because you only learn it when you survive it." The way he said "when you survive it" hit wrong, like he wasn't sure I would. He left me standing there, staring at that sheet of rules glowing under the single flickering light. I thought about my old team, about the call I didn't answer in time, about the fire that moved too fast, too smart, like it knew where we'd run. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the station alarm. It was faint at first, then louder, sharper, mechanical, but almost alive. My first call in Dry Creek. The others ran for the truck, but as I reached for my gear, my hand hesitated. The radio crackled to life. A dispatcher's voice, female, calm, practiced. "Station 19, Barnfire, Route 6, no name given." Brooks froze in the doorway. Everyone looked at him. He stared at me for a long moment, then said, "You remember rule number 3, Carter?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, don't answer a call with no name." He gave a grim smile. "Good. Then pray it's not for you." As the truck roared to life and the siren wailed into the dawn, I felt something twist in my gut. Something cold. Because for the briefest second between the bursts of radio static, I could have sworn I heard my own voice whisper back through the speaker. Eli Carter. Barnfire, Route 6. The siren tore through the quiet like a scream that didn't belong to the living. Out here, even sound carried differently. Thin, stretched, desperate. The road to Route 6 cut through endless fields of wheat gone brittle from drought. The headlights carved tunnels through the dust, and every time the beam hit a fence post, it looked like a figure waiting just beyond the glass. I sat in the back of the engine, clutching my helmet tighter than I should have. Nobody spoke. Not the captain, not the kid they called Webb, not even Gus, the oldest of the crew, whose face looked carved from ash. It wasn't silence like calm. It was silence like they'd all been here before. Finally, I broke it. So, this call's got no name, right? Webb shifted uncomfortably. Sometimes dispatch gets it wrong. Captain Brooks didn't look back. Sometimes, he said flatly, it's not dispatch. The engine hit a bump, and my stomach did too. We crested a small hill, and there it was, a barn in the distance, glowing faint orange, like a heartbeat pulsing through smoke. But something about it was off. The fire wasn't spreading. It was staying still. Gasoline fire? I asked. Brooks didn't answer. He killed the siren, but left the engine idling. The field was dead silent except for the clicking of metal cooling in the truck. Stay sharp, he said finally. Nobody goes in until I say. We stepped out. The air was thick with heat, but smelled wrong, sweet and metallic, like blood drying on iron. The fire wasn't roaring or crackling. It just moved, slow and steady, like it was breathing. Brooks raised his flashlight and called out. Anyone inside? No answer, just the soft hiss of burning hay. Then, something. A faint sound. Not from inside the barn, from the radio. A whisper. My name, Eli Carter. Come in. The voice was mine. I froze. My throat went dry. Captain, did you hear that? He didn't even turn. Keep your radio off local. They'll use your name if you let them. They? I asked. He ignored me and motioned for Gus and Webb to flank the barn. I followed, trying not to look too shaken, but the hair on my arms stood up, like I'd stepped into static. The barn door was half open, and through it I could see the glow of the fire. It wasn't touching the walls or the beams. It just hovered, flickering like a living thing caught in a jar. Jesus, Webb whispered. It's burning the air. Then came the smell, sharp, acrid, almost electric. And under that, something else, something human. Brooks's voice cut through. Nobody crosses the threshold. Not unless we know what's burning. I took a step forward anyway, instinct kicking in. Old training. Firemen don't just watch a blaze. We fight it. The captain's hand shot out, grabbing my shoulder. His grip was steel. Rule no 3, he said, eyes locked on mine. Don't answer a call with no name. I'm not answering, I said. I'm doing my job. He didn't let go. That's what the last one said. Then we heard it. The scream. It came from inside the barn. A man's voice, hoarse, terrified. Help, please! I lunged forward, but Brooks yanked me back. Stay put. He's alive in there. Listen, he barked. The scream came again, but now it wasn't quite right. The words were stretched, wrong in the mouth, echoing too deep for the size of the barn. And then my name again. Eli. Please help me! My body went cold. It was my voice again, coming from inside the flames. Gus muttered something under his breath and crossed himself. The captain stepped forward, eyes hard. Back in the truck, now! Nobody argued. As we reversed down the dirt road, the barn still stood, glowing like an ember that refused to die. The radio crackled again. Static and whispers intertwined. Rule 7, a voice said softly. You don't survive it twice. Brooks snapped the radio off. His jaw was clenched tight enough to crack teeth. I wanted to ask questions, but nobody else spoke the whole ride back. Even Webb kept staring out the window like he'd seen something he couldn't unsee. When we got back to the station, the air felt heavier. Brooks parked the truck, stepped out and faced me. "You got lucky tonight," he said. "Most first-timers don't." "Lucky?" I laughed, though it came out shaky. "We didn't even fight a fire." He gave a bitter half smile. "That's what you think." "What was in there?" I asked. "Who was screaming?" He started to walk away, then paused. "You remember what I told you last night? The fire here doesn't just burn wood. Then what does it burn?" He looked at me. "Names." And then he left me alone in that cold, humming station, staring at the empty bunks and the list of rules pinned to the wall. The black ink over rule number 7 seemed darker than before. I could still hear my own voice echoing through the static in my head. Eli Carter. Barnfire, Route 6, somewhere out there. Something had called my name, and next time, I wasn't sure I'd be able to stop myself from answering. They say you never really sleep in a firehouse. You just wait for the next call. But that night, I didn't sleep because I was afraid of hearing my own voice again. The bunk room was still. I could hear Webb snoring softly 2 beds over, and the hum of the vending machine in the hall. The lights from the parking lot outside slipped through the blinds, striping the room in pale gold. I should have felt safe, but the longer I stared at the ceiling, the more the silence started to feel watched. I turned over and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror across the room, the one nailed to the locker door. For a split second, I swear I saw movement. My reflection blinked a moment later than I did. I sat up, heartbeat climbing into my throat. "You're just tired," I muttered to myself. "Stress, drought, heat." But the reflection, my reflection, tilted its head as if it was listening. Then Webb groaned in his sleep, turning over, and when I looked back, the mirror was empty. Just the dim shape of the bunk room, lit by the faint red emergency bulb. No, I didn't move for a long time. Just sat there, watching the empty glass stare back at me. Morning came, but the feeling didn't fade. Gus was brewing coffee in the kitchen, humming a gospel tune so low it sounded like mourning. Brooks sat at the long table, half reading a report, half not. "Sleep well?" he asked without looking up. "Not really," I said. "Had weird dreams," he grunted. "Dreams are good. Means they still want to talk to you," I froze. "Who?" He folded the report neatly and finally looked up. "Whatever's in that barn." I waited for the punchline. "It never came. You're serious?" He sipped his coffee. "You think Dry Creek used to be this quiet for no reason? You think fires out here act normal?" He nodded toward the rules board pinned beside the engine bay. "Rule 4, Carter. Read it again." I glanced at it. Rule Chapter 4. Never look too long at what's burning. Brooks stood. They say flame remembers faces. If it sees yours too clearly, it keeps it. He walked away, leaving me staring at my own reflection in the chrome of the coffee pot, warped and wobbly, but undeniably smiling back when I wasn't. Later that day, the station got a call. Not for a fire, for a search. An old rancher named Clyde went missing near the irrigation fields south of town. No flames, no smoke, no reason to be afraid. Just a routine job. Except when we got there, I saw something I'll never forget. The irrigation trench was bone dry, just cracked mud and reeds. And there, at the bottom, was Clyde's pickup. Engine off, doors locked, windshield shattered from inside. No sign of him. But on the driver's side mirror, smeared in ash, were handprints. Black, oily, as if burned into the glass. "Clyde didn't burn anything," Webb said. "There's no fire for miles." "Not yet," Gus muttered. Brooks ordered us to sweep the area, but the air around that truck was wrong. Heat shimmered over the dirt even though the sun was fading. I knelt near the mirror and looked closer. For a heartbeat, I saw my own eyes staring back from inside the truck, not the reflection of me kneeling there. The eyes were behind the glass. Watching, I stumbled backward. The door creaked open on its own, and a voice whispered from the darkness inside the cab. "Eli, you didn't listen." I turned, breath sharp and panicked, but no one else reacted. They didn't hear it. That night back at the firehouse, I couldn't shake the feeling that something from that field had followed me home. Every shiny surface seemed to flicker to breathe. I covered the mirror in my locker with my jacket. Around 2 a.m. I heard Webb whispering in his sleep again. Only, he wasn't using his own voice. He was using mine. "Don't go deeper." The same phrase I'd heard during our first descent into the barn's glow. I woke him, shaking his shoulder. "Webb, hey, wake up!" His eyes flew open, white, unfocused. "You shouldn't have looked," he whispered, still half dreaming. "Now it knows your face." Then he went limp, fast asleep again. I sat there in the dark, every nerve on fire. When I couldn't take it anymore, I went to the washroom to splash my face. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, making everything flicker in that pale green tint that turns the world sickly. I leaned toward the mirror and froze. My reflection wasn't alone. Behind me stood a figure, faint and smoke grey, its hand resting lightly on my shoulder. I spun around. Nothing. When I looked back at the mirror again, there was no reflection at all. Just a black void where I should have been. And in that void, written in fog, were 3 words: Rule 7 burns. The bulb overhead burst, and I staggered backward, heart slamming in my chest. The next morning, Brooks didn't look surprised when he saw the broken light. He just said quietly, "Once it shows you that message, you can't leave town." "Why?" I demanded. He met my eyes. "Because the fire sees you now, and it doesn't like to lose what it finds." When the alarm went off that night, I swear it didn't sound right. It wasn't the usual sharp electronic screech. It warbled, almost human, like someone gasping through static. By the time I reached the dispatch radio, the others were already awake, tense, staring at the speakers. A voice crackled through the line. "Station 7, copy. It's spreading. Help me." The problem was, it was Webb's voice. But Webb was right there beside me. He looked pale as chalk, shaking his head. That's not me." We stood there frozen, the hiss of the radio filling the silence like a lung inhaling. Then the voice came again, louder this time, more desperate. "Brooks, please, send Eli. He's the only one it wants." The captain turned slowly toward me. For the first time since I'd met him, I saw real fear in his eyes. We drove out into the black stretch of desert south of Dry Creek, sirens cutting through the dead quiet. The address given by dispatch didn't exist, just County Road 19, mile marker 13. But the coordinates led us to an abandoned church, half swallowed by sand and mesquite. Its roof had collapsed inward long ago. The sign out front still read, "Christ the Shepherd's House," though the letters "her" were missing, leaving it to say, "Christ the SP's house." The closer we got, the hotter it felt. No fire visible, but the air itself shimmered, like we were standing too close to a furnace. Brooks parked the truck and turned to me. "You stay in the cab." "Like hell," I said. He didn't argue. That worried me more than anything. Gus and Webb geared up, flashlights cutting across the dirt. I followed a few steps behind, every nerve on edge. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of burnt wood and something older, like wet ashes and rust. The pews were scattered, Bibles torn open as if flung by wind or hands. And at the far end, near what used to be the altar, The floor glowed faintly orange, like embers beneath the boards. Brooks knelt beside them, brushing off soot. His gloved hand trembled. "Same markings," he muttered. "It's starting again." "What markings?" I asked. He didn't answer. Then the radio on his shoulder crackled. Webb's voice again, pleading, "It's under the floor. Don't let Eli near it." Everyone froze. Webb, the real one, backed away, shaking his head violently. "I'm not saying that. I'm not—" Before he could finish, the boards beneath Brooks buckled. Heat rushed out like breath. We stumbled back as flame burst upward. Not red or orange, but white, pure and silent, like light with no sound. And from within that flame came a shape. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't human, but it pretended to be. Its face was mine. My voice echoed from its burning mouth. "Eli," it said, "you broke the rule." My knees buckled. "What are you?" "You looked too long," the others shouted, tried to douse it, but their hoses spat only steam. The thing moved between the jets like smoke, whispering through the air. Webb screamed as it touched his arm. His gear melted through like wax. I dragged him back toward the exit. Brooks was yelling orders, but his voice distorted, bending around the creature's hiss. We got outside. The church was burning from inside out. No wind, no sound, just white flame and light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Then, through the roar, I heard it again on the radio, Webb's voice. Calm this time. Rule 6, don't answer when your own name calls. I dropped the radio. It melted into the dirt, plastic hissing like tar. Back at the firehouse, we didn't talk. Not for hours. Webb's arm was wrapped in gauze that wouldn't stop smoking. Gus sat rocking slightly, whispering prayers under his breath. Brooks locked himself in his office. I sat alone in the bay, staring at the trucks gleaming under the fluorescent light. For a moment, I saw my reflection in the windshield, split in half. One side burned, one side clean. That's when the phone on the wall rang. A single, shrill tone. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. "Station 7, I said, voice shaking, and my own voice replied, "You survived the 6th. It's time for the 7th. Click. The line went dead. I turned, realizing the laminated paper, the 7 rules, was missing from the board. Only a single burned edge remained, still smoking. I didn't tell the others what the voice said, because deep down, I already knew what the 7th rule must be. Something you couldn't write down, something you had to burn to learn. You ever smell smoke when there's no fire? That's how it started, not the roaring kind of smoke, just that faint sting of ash that gets into your nose and won't leave. I woke up choking on it. The firehouse was dark, too dark. The generator hummed somewhere below, but the lights were out. I could hear dripping, slow, rhythmic, steady like a pulse. I stumbled down the hall, flashlight trembling in my hand. Brooks, Webb, anyone? No answer. The laminated list of the 7 rules was gone. In its place was a black handprint on the wall, still warm. That's when I realized something. The air wasn't filled with smoke. It was filled with breath, like the whole building was exhaling around me. I followed the sound of the dripping to the equipment bay. Every helmet, every axe, every oxygen tank. Melted, not burned, melted. The truck's chrome reflected everything like liquid glass. In the middle of the floor sat Webb, staring blankly ahead. His bandaged arm was gone. Nothing left but a scorched shoulder and an expression that looked half dead. Half relieved. "Webb," I whispered. He didn't move. Then, in the reflection of the fire truck, he did. The mirrored Webb turned to look at me. Eyes hollow, mouth twitching upward into a smile. "You should have left," he said through the glass. I took a step back, shaking. This isn't real. You're dead. You're... The reflection interrupted. Voice sharper now. You never told them what happened at Junction 9. My stomach dropped. The words clawed into my skull like sparks, because he was right. I hadn't told them. I hadn't told anyone. A year ago, in Junction 9, my old fire crew had gone into a warehouse fire. 7 of us entered. Only 1 came out, me. They said it was an explosion, faulty tanks. But that's not what happened. There was a sound in that fire, a voice, just like the one in the radio. It whispered to me through the smoke. Leave them. You can live. And I did. I left them. I told the report I was blown clear by the blast. I told myself I didn't have a choice. But the truth? I heard them screaming for help, and I ran. Now, as I stood in Dry Creek's firehouse, that same voice crept back through the heat, soft and hungry. Rule 7, Eli. Do you remember? I turned in a slow circle. No, I don't know what you want from me. Confession. The word echoed through the bay, rattling the metal shelves, bending the light. Every reflection started to ripple like boiling water. Then, all at once, they moved. Dozens of versions of me stared out from the truck, the oxygen tanks, the window glass, each one burned, twisted, mouths opening in silent accusation. One by one, they began whispering, "You left them. You left us. You left me." The fire alarm went off on its own. Red lights flashed across the walls, bleeding into the reflections. Brooks burst from his office, shouting, "Get out! The building's heating from inside." But I couldn't move. The flames were already crawling across the ceiling, not spreading from a source, but forming words. They spelled, Rule 7. I screamed, "What is it? What's the 7th rule?" Brooks grabbed my arm, yanking me toward the exit. "You don't want to know, Eli." The doors burst open, but instead of night air, there was only light, white, endless fire. Brooks froze, staring into it. "Oh God, it's back." The voice rose again, louder, layered, as if hundreds spoke at once. Rule 7. The fire remembers. The next moments blur in my mind. I remember Brooks burning, silently like paper in sunlight. I remember Webb's empty shell standing up, walking straight into the blaze, smiling. And then, nothing. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. The firehouse was intact. No scorch marks, no melted tools. Brooks's office door still closed. For a second, I thought maybe I'd dreamed it all. Then I saw the new sign on the wall, freshly laminated, freshly nailed. The 7 rules. All 7 were printed this time. No blacked out line. The last one read, Rule No. 7. When the fire remembers you, stay where you are. I touched the page. It was warm. In the truck bay mirror, my reflection smiled back at me, except I wasn't smiling. And behind my reflection stood Webb, Brooks, and 6 others I hadn't seen in a year, watching from inside the glass, faces charred, eyes glowing. "Welcome home, Eli," they whispered. The overhead siren began to wail. Another call, another fire, another chance to stay where I was.